Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer. We're here today with the Dark Elves and Malekith on his Lizard Limo, and you know what that means. It's either Skaven or Dwarfs, and this time it's the Dwarves. So let's get to it. Malekith on his Lizard Limo, of course. He's got Blade Wind, Soul Stealer, and Power of Darkness. 2 units of Lizard Limos here, as well as the Blades of the Blood Queen hidden in the woods. We've also got 3 Dark Riders in Vanguard, front line of 5 Bleak Swords, 2 Feral Manticores, and 2 Shielded Dark Shards as well. For my Dwarfen opponent, his army is going to be led by Grombrindle himself, the White Dwarf. We got Miners with Blasting Charges, Warriors with Dragonfire Pass, Longbeards with Great Weapons, a couple of Rangers, the Goblobber? Yep, Goblobber. 1 Cannon, 1 Giant Slayer, the Dragonback Slayer, some additional Miners out to the flanks. And, yeah, looks like a Runesmith as well. We're going to be bringing up a flanking force since the Dwarfs are in a nice tight position here. Going to be trying to get a full surround. The Rangers do get discovered here. Of course, they have stock baselines. They're going to open up on that Feral Manticore. It's a little bit of a dangerous situation for me. I really don't want those Manticores to, like, get enraged into the Slayers, for example. However, just to kind of take a look here, I'm going to drop down these 2 Manticores into combat against the cannons to attempt to pull the Slayers in this direction. Then my idea was to come around with the Dark Riders and hit the artillery pieces once the Slayers were out of position. So let's see. Manticores drop down, Slayers respond, and then here come the Dark Riders as well. Will it be enough to actually shut down these cannon crews, these artillery crews here? You can see this Goblobber crew is mostly still online, and that Manticore actually got stuck and enraged on the ground. So this one, a little bit of a fail. On the other hand, this one worked out quite well. The Manticore was able to get back up into the air. Dark Riders charged in and disrupted the artillery crew. Unfortunately, in both instances, the artillery crew did not rout, and this Manticore took a ton of damage. So was it worth it at the end of the day? It's hard to say. You can see my front line's getting wrecked a little bit, so we're going to activate Malekith and the Lizard Limos, start to pull in some Blade Winds here and do some disruption on this pocket as the Bleak Swords and the other units start to move in. They have eaten a bunch of blasting charges already. You can see one of my Dark Shards got routed off, the other one not doing too great in terms of its leadership, so we've definitely taken some damage on the approach, but that charge right there just broke up these Rangers, and you can see the disruption is pretty real at this point. The Bleak Sword's going to get in here as well. Excuse me, guys, a little bit under the weather, but yeah, the Dark Shard's also firing in here. The Manticore came down to interrupt again. The Giant Slayers are right on station, but as long as this Manticore can sort of just keep these ranged units tied down and maybe proc a terror route or 2, like on this cannon crew, for example. You can see a Gaze of Malice there does quite a bit of damage to the Slayers, and yeah, at this point the Dwarf line is pretty well disrupted by the Chariots, and these Lizard Limos, man, they do armor-piercing in melee, they have armor-piercing missile attacks. We're going to drop another Blade Wind in here, again, mostly to try and do damage to the Slayers here, as they are one of the main dangers to my primary DPS units. It looks like Grombrindle did get the Flash Bomb here. That does mean he's going to be able to get some hits on Malekith, but you can see he's kind of getting nommed on a little bit by these Chariots, and yeah, they do armor-piercing damage. He himself is juiced up, obviously, with the extra AP, but will that be enough to actually blow up one of these Chariots? It looks like he did some solid damage to Malekith, but we are going to be able to regenerate a lot of that with a nice Soul Stealer here. Hits quite a few different units, obviously. Even though the Dwarfs have magic resistance, it still will do some damage. This Tattered Manticore came down to try and finish off the Runesmith, but it looks like he might be able to beat the beast back. Let's see. Come on, nice hammer to the face. There we go. This I love how this this Bleak Sword is like, I am also involved in the combat. Anyway, this other Manticore doing a good job here. It's going to get dragged down by Giant Slayers eventually, but it's been cost-effective in disrupting the backline. And again, against the Dwarves, you guys will hear me talk about it constantly. The backline disruption is the key to victory here. As for my opponent, I think Grombrindle's a little bit of a tough choice. I mean, I kind of get him from the control perspective. The Flash Bomb does give you the ability to kind of control certain units, but honestly, I think if you just take the Rune Lord with the Master Rune of Wrath Rune Ruin, it's a bit cheaper. I mean, granted, he doesn't do the damage melee like you would want to, but yeah, you can see the Dark Shards have both come back from rout and are raining in some fire on these unshielded Longbeards here. All the units are unbreakable at this point because of Grombrindle has no fear, but yeah, once that wears off, these units are all going to start to rout. And granted, I did take a lot of damage, but you can see the Blades of the Blood Queen made their way all the way up and around through the woods, finally getting involved in the combat here, almost completely untouched, and they are one of the most powerful great weapon units in the game. Infantry versus infantry, that is. So they will cut through even like these Nor Grimlings Ironbreakers, which are probably one of the best defensive units in the game. The Blades of the Blood Queen will be able to cut through them without too much issue here. So yeah, rough day for the Dawi. They are going to get finished off by their hated foes here. And yeah, pretty much just a few Slayers holding out at this point. Looks like they are done for, and that is game. So well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. In terms of the army breakdown here, yeah, I mean, again, the Lizard Limos, pretty powerful. Malekith himself, 106 kills on the Chariot with the Vortex as well. I mean, the advance was definitely pretty rough. You can see the Bleak Swords pretty much didn't do anything. Dark Shards were able to get some kills done. The Manticores got a little bit of work done as well. And of course, the Dark Riders, just having them is necessary, even if they don't get a lot of work done. Just being able to chase routing units, you know, get on squishy units like artillery crews or rangers or, you know, any unit with low armor, and just generally have that backline disruption. It's very key for those Dark Riders. On the flip side, for my opponent, I think his army is just a little bit too small. He needs to go a bit wider on some things. I'm not the biggest fan of the Goblobber here. I mean, yes, the Hargonath Executioners are a big danger, but I think there's better anti-infantry tools that you can bring to the table. So let's go ahead and just sort of put together a Dwarf build that you could potentially use here. From my perspective, similar to the High Elves, not quite the same. You do want some ability to go pretty wide here. A Rune Lord on foot is going to give you a cheap option. Granted, he's not going to do a lot in melee, but he will give you the Master Rune of Wrath Rune to be able to control your opponent. And if you just bring that, he is pretty cheap. I would also recommend probably 1 Runesmith, maybe 2 if you really want to go crazy on the runes. You can take, you know, 3 Runes of Wrath and Ruin is a pretty good amount of damage and control. And then for the front line, I would say you want to go nice and wide. Miners with the blasting charges are really nice here because they can do a lot of damage to the unarmored Dark Elf units. Dwarf Warriors with their good melee defense will be able to hold out for a while. Cannons are pretty much always a good idea. I might even grab 2 here. As for the rest, there's a few different directions you can go. Thunderers are almost always a good idea, so I'm going to grab a few of them. We do want some Slayers, so maybe I'll grab a couple of units, and then a Trollhammer Torpedo to take out Chariots. Now, these guys' sole purpose is to take out Chariots that compromise the backline, so you keep them in as defensive of a position as possible, and then when those Chariots come in, you use them immediately on those Chariots, and preferably, like, especially if Malekith is on a Chariot, you want to go directly after him. I might try and figure out some way to optimize to upgrade one of these Slayers to the Dragonback Slayers, just because this, combined with the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, that power of the Dragonback, will almost immobilize a lot of units, which is definitely what you want, but obviously I would have to find a little bit of cost here, maybe cut blasting charges from a couple of these miners. Yeah, I guess we could only cut 1 and be fine. That would probably be pretty good. Nice and wide. You still have some good defensive tools. You have some artillery and some good armor-piercing range damage in case they bring armored infantry. And even if they bring unarmored infantry or, you know, unarmored units in general, the Thunderers obviously will still do damage to them. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, though. For those of you who play the Dwarves, how do you go about fighting the Dark Elves? Definitely a tough matchup because of those Lizard Limos. They are just an obscenely powerful unit, and honestly, I do think that the Lizard Limos could do with a cost increase. A lot of armor-piercing Chariots are probably a little bit better than they should be, especially against units like Heavy Cavalry, but for me personally, like, you compare these guys, they have the same cost as Cold One Knights. I really think that the Chariots should be 1,100. If we look at other armor-piercing Chariots, then they fall into a similar category, like Doomflayers, for example, are more expensive. They're 1,200. Gorebeast Chariots for the Warriors of Chaos are more expensive. They're, what, 1,100, 1,200 as well. if we have a look here, yeah, they're 1,200. For the Beastmen, your armor-piercing chariots are more expensive as well. They're 1,100, so I definitely think that the Lizard Limos should be at 1,100 to 1,200. The only other armor-piercing chariot I want to say that's 1,000 is the Orc Boar Chariot, which is honestly kind of terrible in comparison. It doesn't have an armor-piercing missile attack, doesn't have nearly as good as stats. I mean, yeah, it's just not even in the same ballpark, I don't think, as the Lizard Limo here. So I mean, yes, the Lizard Limo does technically have the primal instincts, but because of some of the recent changes to this, it doesn't go off nearly as easily. You can micro these chariots a lot more effectively, so I do think that as a result of that, they need a cost increase. They've needed a cost increase for a while, to be honest, but they should be 1,100, even 1,200. I think they would still be super cost effective at that price range. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, though. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.